Tiffany, so glad to have you here. Really interested in just having this conversation about you and your real estate journey and what's working for you. So just kind of lay it out. So you've been licensed 2 years or so. Is that about right?
About 2 years, yes.
Got you. And remind me, when did you join us?
I joined you, I believe, in February of this year.
Perfect time, like a great quiet time in the world. Okay, so uh, what really caught my attention is the dichotomy of your business from kind of one half of the year to the other. So I'm looking at a chart now of your first half of the year. First 5 months, I see 2 to 3 closings. Second half, I see a closing every single month, some months with 2 to 3 closings. It could not be any more of a flip of the switch. So I just want to make sure, did you get any magic fairy dust we sent you, magic marketing, is there any of that kind of stuff? Okay.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
So we don't like any other brokerage. We don't have some magic marketing thing. But I'm curious to know, what do you think is working for you that's changed in the way you're focusing your energy and efforts from your first year, and particularly first half of the year, to what's kind of clicking now?
Well, my first half of the year, I feel like was a complete disaster. I was in a position where I was being literally ran by my business. And whenever a phone call would come in, I literally dropped what I was doing. And felt like I was just chasing the shiny object my first year. And I didn't have any control of my business. I didn't have any strategy. I didn't even know what my why was really. And so when I decided, like, enough is enough, I hit a major low, like, okay, either I'm going to do this or I'm going to go back to the corporate world. And so I hit a point where I needed to be more intentional. I needed to find someone to really help me really just put things in place and have a realistic perspective on how to get to where I want to be.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
I can't tell you how many buzzwords I heard in there that I feel like, oh my God, those are things I talk about all the time. What's your why? I mean, I tell people all the time, there's 8,500 agents. We all have the same what we do. People work with you because of the experience, because of the why part. And that's so fascinating to me that you're starting to find your why and communicate that. And that's a lot more fun too, right?
Absolutely. And that was the very first thing, like when I met with you in Remax Realty, you mentioned like, well, what is your why? Because I had every reason not to make the transition because, first things first, I can't invest in myself. I can't have a monthly fee because I'm not making any money. And there were so many fears in place. But when you go back to just the starting blocks of knowing why, it empowers you past those insecurities.
Interesting, interesting. And the other thing I heard as a key word was intent and business. Two other words that I think sometimes lack in my conversations with other agents. And I talk to people from brokerages, sometimes 8 or 10, 12 people a week from all different kinds of brokerages. And the most common thing I hear of is the business owning them, and most of what they do is organic. Tell me a little bit about that. How are you approaching this in the sense of you trying to create the Tiffany business?
Well, yeah, to start off, I felt like my very first year, I was using my parents, my family, friends, and I really didn't have to work too hard for business. And intention wasn't necessary in that time. But going into my second year, to really be intent, I had to come to a point of not only knowing my why, but the how as well. And I really gained a lot of help as far as just learning my how. And I had become intentional by one, investing in myself in education, attending every single, training that you guys have. And then two, making sure I have a marketing plan for every single thing that I do, whether it's following up with people, whether it's a marketing strategy for what happens after I close, even when it comes to just my time management each day. What am I spending my time on? Can I look back over the day and say, hey, I got my goals done for that day? So that's what I mean. I was able to really become more intentional, and that's how it happened.
And you know what's fascinating now that I think about this? You went from a first year in business of being politely organic, or if I could be blunt, business by accident. I'm just going to tap into the people I
Yeah.
know. Okay. And you went
Yeah.
from a very low monthly kind of environment. Then you switched to us, and we're not like some super high, but it was certainly double or more what you were paying before, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, wait a minute, if I'm going to be paying this money, I better start treating this like a business and just not be casual. Then you started to put things I couldn't come up with a better list of examples. How are you going to stay in touch with people? How are you going to communicate things? And I mean, this is not like a 10-page booklet, right? It doesn't have to be overly complicated. It could start with just a
Right.
couple things, but then you just do it, add to it. I tell people all the time, all you do at the end of the year is set up a goals for next year, meaningless. How are you going to get there? That's what counts. What are the action plans? And I hear that you're putting in your business action to work. You're putting in real specific plans, like a marketing plan, action. And now you're starting to see results. At the end of that, you see closings and things occur. Perfect. You were
Yes,
telling me something
absolutely.
before that's a great example, your AdWorks campaign, of how you're using that. I'm a big fan of AdWorks, so let me explain to people what it is real quick who are going to watch this. It's a personal billboard that you could put on the internet, but and tell the billboard where to show up. So you could, pick specific people and target them to see your ad X number of times a month while they're surfing the internet, right? How do you use that in an effective strategic fashion?
Well, I started out with my marketing strategy. So I literally have a little 4-point list of what I do after each closing. And so after each closing, I go on AdWorks. It takes me like 5 minutes to do the ad. I click on just sold, I add my picture, I add how many bedrooms, bathrooms, what it sold for, and then I hit submit. And then literally the next day it starts to run. And not only that, they update me every day on how many views I've gotten. It's connected to my website. And so that's literally how I got my last closing. Is someone saw my ad in Blacklick and she ended up buying a condo in Blacklick just for me spending. It was not even, it was like a $60 investment for a whole week worth of marketing. And I ended up getting a commission check in return and, potentially a lifelong client.
Right. And it's interesting because obtaining a client is the most expensive part of what we do. Nurturing it and then retaining them and getting repeats and referrals, that's where the long-term value comes in. And what you're doing is literally following the campaigns and things that we try and talk about with intent and purpose and direction. You've even taken that to the next level. Some agents, for example, are like, oh, create the ad. And I'm like, well, we got marketing people that could do that. You actually have found that it's not so hard to do. You just go in there and just upload a picture. They make it really simple, and it just
Yeah.
takes you a couple of minutes. But you're doing it with a purpose and intent, and you're starting to act like a pro and look like a pro, and people are seeing you that way. Because who else is going to be advertising on ESPN and other, MSN and other places that these people are hanging out and doing stuff or whatever? And all of a sudden, your ads are coming up, but they're specifically targeted to very specific targeted groups of people, and you're getting a result out of it. That's awesome.
Yes. Yes. Awesome.
Perfect. So, it's not a complicated thing. So, unless I'm missing something, tell me. You are educating yourself through the things that we're trying to provide. So, at our company, it's not just normal CE stuff, but business development and those kinds of stuff. And then just being able to work with intent and purpose. And
Yeah.
I love that because it's really about business building and how to create that partnership is what we want to do to be able to make those things up the game and make that easier. So what do you think now? You
Yeah.
feel like you're being consumed by the business, or you think you're running the business?
Oh, I feel like a business owner. Like I feel like I own this and I feel a sense of I feel like I'm valuable. I'm not just a salesperson out here running the streets. I feel like I'm valuable. And, every time I take the time to invest in myself through the education, it pays off. And I can not only, sell a house, but I can sell myself and they can see a part of me in the business. And then also just the whole goal of running the business. You guys offered that client services. I now have a transaction coordinator, which I never ever could imagine seeing myself have this year, my second year in the business. And so now I'm really focused on prospecting because I literally find a client, help them find a home, and my transaction coordinator takes it over from there. And I really, it's just like a rinse and repeat type of thing now. And it feels really good to know, like, you know, things are getting, all my I's are being dotted, my T's are being crossed. And it goes to show, like, you know, I'm in a good place.
This is fascinating. You are very unique. People in that second year of business emerging, because honestly, I know you're in your second year, but you've been running a business for 6 or 7 months. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
now you're on track to be doing the kind of volume. Most people would never be using a transaction coordinator and offloading that activity early in that process. I always
Mm-hmm.
tell people identify the work that pays $125 an hour. For example, you mentioned it, which would be things like what?
100, like calling, picking up the phone, calling
Yes.
people.
Being in the flow with people,
Yeah.
prospecting, lead generation, that kind of stuff. Work that pays 25 bucks an hour, paperwork, asking the
Stuff in
property disclosure.
envelopes.
Yeah, putting the sign in the yard or property disclosure 3 times, all that just stuff. Agents don't
Yeah.
realize you're losing $100 an hour when you do that work. And I'm assuming you don't exactly love doing paperwork anyways. Like it's not what people pay
I
you
don't.
for. It's a necessary evil. They pay you because of your why. Well, whose why is, hey, I'm great at paperwork. I mean, it's not where the consumer looks for. So I love that. You're going to add more value. You look like a pro and already learning how to kind of offload that and ramp up your business even more. That's awesome. So this was a great call. I really enjoyed having this time with you. Thank you so much. And can't tell you how much I look forward to continue to grow with you in your career.
Likewise, thank you so much.
Awesome.